Years ago, when I was the pastor of St. Mark's, in the school, there were some really good kids. One kid, he was a great kid. Always very patient, good kid, very kind. And I actually always kind of hoped he would end up as a priest. And so years later, I see him at St. Mark's, except now he's at college. And he's studying, and like I'm always hoping he'd be a priest. And so I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I said, what are you studying in college?" And he says, "I discovered I have a real gift for engineering." Engineering. So like I was a little disappointed. I was hoping it was leading to the priesthood or something. So I said, "Well, that's okay, but don't you want to do good in the world? I mean, think about becoming a priest or a bartender, something to bring joy into the world." But actually turned out to be just a great human being. But I do love the fact that what he discovered is that he has this gift towards math and engineering. And I love the fact, I remember even to this day, he's now an engineer in Silicon Valley. Like, he loves that stuff. And I love how he's giving his gift back. And I mention that because today is the Feast of Epiphany. And in Epiphany, the Magi come and they offer their gifts. That's kind of a big theme. You have to give your gifts to God. And what we believe as Catholics is in the Bible. It says, God, when he creates you, God says, "I knitted you together in your mother's womb. I gave you your gifts. I gave you more gifts than you even know about." And this sounds strange, but God gave us these gifts. And what our religion is supposed to teach us is how to offer those gifts back to God, to the world, to God. Like, I know this sounds strange, like a funeral. One of the big themes of a funeral is that this person used their gifts and offered it to the world and to God, and we thank God for that they offered their gifts. So religion is not about getting something. Religion is supposed to be teaching you how to offer your gifts. And the Magi, they come and they offer their gifts. Now, I love Epiphany, love Feast of the Holy Family, but just to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of Christmas. I know that sounds awful, but like Christmas Day is always so heavy, and plus I get really annoyed with all the commercials for Christmas Day where it's all about, I get something. It kind of almost ruins it for me. So I'm kind of happy after Christmas where we can celebrate the other feasts. Now, we're still in the Christmas season because Christmas lasts a long time. Epiphany is part of the Christmas season. I like the Christmas season. And I especially like Epiphany because, think about this, Christmas is so commercial. Get this, get that. You come to Mass on January 1st. We even give you a liturgical calendar. And in case you missed it, Jake sang it for you. That's a custom. You do it on Epiphany, is sing the liturgical calendar. You even get something there. But Epiphany is when we celebrate Christmas. Is also really about giving your gifts away. That's what the Magi did. And so on the gifts, just hopefully this makes sense. The gifts that they offer symbolize themselves. I know it's gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but all of us end up offering God a gift. The same way this kid, he loves engineering, that's going to be one of the gifts that he offers the world. So the gifts that we really offer symbolize ourselves. And when you offer your gift to Christ, lo and behold, the gift speaks about Christ. So like the gold, frankincense, and myrrh, they also speak about who Christ is. Gold, his divinity; frankincense, high priest; myrrh will be his sacrifice and his death. So all of us, in one way, we're supposed to be Magi, that we know what it is to give your gifts to God. We'd say as Catholics, it's not good enough to say, "Oh, you have that gift." Big deal. You have to offer your gift to the world, to the service of other people. that actually, this is the strange part, that's the big thing. And we do it every Mass, like the preparation of the gifts, the bread and the wine, they symbolize us. They come forward, they're consecrated. We offer our lives to God, and lo and behold, what they speak about is the very presence of Christ. You have to offer God a gift. I love that line in Leviticus where it says, how dare anybody show up to the presence of God empty-handed? You have to offer God a gift. And lo and behold, those gifts that you offer are the very things God wove into your being. You offer it back. I really dislike religion that teaches you that you pray and God gets you something. No, if you pray, you discover your gifts and you offer them back. And the thing about the Magi is this too. When they make it to the manger and offer their gifts, did you notice how it says they went home a different way? They didn't return home the same way. That's actually a hint that they were converted. And I do believe that once you offer your gifts and pour it out in service to other people, I don't care what it is, whatever it is, you pour it out on other people, and the strange things happen, is that we are more converted into the image of Christ. You have to offer your gifts. If you notice in the story, you know the story, Herod and the priests, they didn't make it to adore the Christ. They were given gifts. They just cared. They thought the world was all about themselves. So they don't offer their gifts. And to me, that's the opposite of religion. Magi, they offer their gifts. Now, who the Magi were, I know this is strange, but I love this. Who the Magi were technically the Magi are Zoroastrian priests. And I kind of love that. If Zoroastrianism, it's a religion pretty much wiped out, but it's a very ancient religion, and it was monotheistic. They believed in one God. They were as ancient as Judaism. They are thousands of years old. And just to explain a little bit about them, they worshiped the light. They pictured God. They believed in one God, and God was pure light. So when they prayed, they'd have to pray in some sort of light. And they believed this light would lead you to all truth. The opposite of the light is what they didn't call it evil, they called it the lie. And the light will lead you to truth. The lie will just teach you how to lie and lie. And the more you enjoy lying, the more you move into darkness. I just like that their name for evil is the lie. And they too had prophecies about a star and the King of Kings coming, this great Savior. They too had prophecies. In fact, the prophecy about the star, that actually technically is not from a Jewish prophet. That is from a pagan prophet. The bizarre part is that God sometimes even speaks through pagan prophets. And the Magi, part of their job in Persia was to crown new kings. So they're connected with crowning the new kings, and because their prophecies is that the King of Kings would be revealed by a star, they were also astronomers. So they were wise men in the sense of very learned, but they're astronomers because they were looking for the King of Kings. Even like, I think this is kind of interesting, in 63 AD, because they were priests, Nero, who committed a lot of murders, asked the Magi to come and atone for his sins. Or, and this is amazing to me, in the 13th century, Marco Polo, in his travels in northern Persia, he comes across this village. And in this town, when he tells them that they're a Christian, they get really excited. And they say, the Magi came from our village to your Christ. Now, Marco Polo was kind of shocked at this because you were thinking, they're all pagans. But they're so proud that the Magi came from their village. Why would they have told Marco Polo that? Because the Magi did come from that. What I think is kind of amazing is Martin Luther, later, Martin Luther wanted to translate the Bible into German for some reason, because he was German. And he thought everybody should read the Bible. But Martin Luther was a little odd. If he ever came into some part of the Bible he didn't like, He either took it out or changed it, which I know is bizarre. I just think is the height of hypocrisy. And Martin Luther knew what the Magi were. They're pagan priests. But he didn't like the idea of pagans showing up to the presence of Christ. So he promoted this, wise men king thing, because, you can't have the pagan showing up to Christ. But that's what Epiphany means. The light of Christ, it goes out to all the world, to all the nations, to everybody. Christ is the light. And if you follow the light of truth, somehow that will lead you to its very source, Christ. Christ is leading all people. But the thing about Martin Luther, I heard that in a lecture, and Christian people tend to think that way, that somehow we own Christ. We don't. Christ is not our possession, we're his. Christ is the light that leads all people. That's what we celebrate at Epiphany. And I forget when it was, last year I think, Pope Francis said something that irritated a lot of people. And he said that he believed good atheists can still make it to heaven. But that is what we celebrate on the feast of Epiphany. That Christ's light goes out to all people. They may not know the name Jesus, but if they search for truth, they'll be led to Christ. That's what we do believe. The same way Martin Luther, people were kind of shocked by saying, well, what do you mean atheists can make it to heaven? It's not that God has low standards. God is calling all people. They're kind of like Martin Luther saying, well, pagans can't make it to Christ. Yeah, that's what the Magi symbolize. I believe the light of truth will lead all people. It doesn't matter if they're atheists or even engineers. They can make it to the manger. The shocking part is not that, yes, Christ is even calling atheists. The shocking part is, to me, the shocking part shouldn't be, the Magi made it to the manger. The shocking part should be, am I offering my gifts? Because the Magi, the Magi symbolize kind of those outside of our religion. Well, I'll even say atheists, but good ones who follow the light, or searching for the truth. They offered their gifts. The scary part for us is you should be asking, are we offering our gifts? Because Herod and the priests, they believed in the Christ. They believed the Christ would come, but they never offered their gifts. The great shame of Epiphany is to think that you own Christ. The great shame of Epiphany is if you say you believe in Christ, but you really never discover or offer your gifts to the world. We may not be Magi, but like the Magi, to really be converted to life and God, you have to offer your gift. And so, together, let us stand and profess our faith.